Good evening, everyone. Hope you are all keeping well. My name is Karishma. I'm working as Head Training and Compliance at Imaza Services Private Limited. Welcome to today's webinar on food fraud, understanding the risks and preventing the harm. Firstly, I would like to go through some ground rules of the session. All participants should be muted. Please raise hand or ask question in the chat box. The session is being recorded. Discussion will be held at the end of the session, so you can ask queries there also. Moving forward, I would like to introduce the speaker, Ms. Rohila Hashmat. She have 15 plus years of experience in various sectors of leading industries in the field of quality, food safety, and conducted various audits and training globally, working in world-renowned certification bodies. She is approved auditor and trainer for various management system standards as well as approved training partner for BRCGS and UNIDO. Her expertise is in trainings, audits, supplier qualification and evaluation, solution provider for customer specific quality related concerns. She have co-founded her own company now, which provides consultancy, training, inspection, audit, assessment, and regulatory services for FMCG industries. You can visit our website and LinkedIn handle also. And for more information, address to which will be mentioned at the end of the slides. Now I would like the Rohila ma'am to proceed with the webinar.
Thank you so much, Karishma. So, good evening to all of you. Uh, I hope this webinar will be beneficial for all of you. It would be interactive because food fraud is a very basic and important point, especially if we are talking about the GFSI requirements. So many of us are be confused to get differentiate between the food fraud as well as the food defense. So here we can discuss about a small we are here to discuss a small description about the food fraud. So we can start. So first of all, uh, you just only write down in the chat box to me only. It's a only 1 minute exercise that how much of you are aware about food fraud. If yes, then only three or four words you can define food fraud. Please just in the chat box reply to me only that in only in 3 to 4 words how you can define the food fraud. Please just take your 1 minute only. So I am expecting the reply from all of you. I have received only one reply. So please, all of you, if you want to get understand that what is food fraud, so please we get reply on that. Only one reply I have received. Some products not as per label. Fine. Deceiving customers, it can be through adulterations, etc. Um, doing something for financial gain like mixing good and brand quality. Peter is saying food fraud is an imitation of the authentic food. Anyone else? So I have received reply from few of your participants. Deepa, food fraud is a term used to describe the intentional deception or misrepresentation of food products for economic gain. It can be involved the deliberate adulteration, substitution, or mislabeling of food products, as well as the falsification of documentation, food safety risk from adulteration, duplicate products. Why is this saying food fraud can be an intentional adulteration and deception? Fine. So now we can discuss here what is exactly food fraud. All of you are almost little or more, less or more right. So we can discuss here now what is food fraud. So now Rajan sir is saying food fraud occurs when food or drink is sold in a way that deliberately misleads or deceives. So basically, is a uh, food fraud is a fraudulent and intentional substitution, dilution, or addition to a product or raw material or misrepresentation of the product or material for the purpose of financial gain by increasing the apparent value of the product or reducing the cost of its production. So this is a very, very clear and transparent definition of food fraud. If you will going to any other certification, if any other standards, trainings and all, so it would be a very, very common word which you will see either if you will go to FSSC, BRC, GS or any of these standard trainings. So food fraud is now a very, very common word. So basically, again, I am repeating, food fraud is a fraudulent and intentional substitution, dilution or addition to a product or raw material or misrepresentation of the product or material for the purpose of financial gain by increasing the apparent value of the product or reducing the cost of its production. Few of the examples of food fraud include labeling a product with false information, selling food that is not what it claims to be, or diluting a product with a cheaper ingredient. Okay, so now during our conversation, when I'm just explaining something. If you get any doubt, any query, you can just write down in a chat box or please raise your hand. So I will get the idea, and during our this training session, I can try to just clear more and more of your doubts if you will get any. So again, examples of food fraud include labeling a product with false information, selling food that is not what it claims to be, or diluting a product with a cheaper ingredient. So now, what is the impact of food fraud in the food industry? One by one, we can discuss here. Impact on food industry. Food fraud is basically a serious issue for the food industry as it can undermine consumer confidence in the safety and quality of food products. If any of the consumer will get any of the fraud in any product, particular brand or product, then automatically the market value and the confidence towards product it will definitely be get decreased. Fraud can also result in economic losses for the industry as well as potential health risk to consumer. So basically, it can give the economic loss to the industry as well as it also give the potential health risk to consumer. So basically, food fraud can give a negative impact to both the industry if the consumer will be get identified, or it will be as well as the potential health risk to the consumers. So now the food industry is responsible for ensuring the safety and authenticity of the food supply, and food fraud prevention measures are necessary to maintain consumer trust and protect public health. So basically, food fraud plays a very, very important role in food industry, or we can say from the farm to the fork to give a safe product to the consumer, which will be get fit for their consumption. So now we can discuss some here about the food fraud brief history. Why means why suddenly food fraud came in the presence in the market. What is the basic history of the food fraud? Few incidents we can discuss here about the food fraud. Few of the major products which get the risk from the food fraud, common food fraud risk and all these things. Few things we can discuss here. when it came into the market, into the limelight, we can discuss here. So food fraud has been a food fraud. So food fraud has been a problem for centuries, and there have been numerous incidents throughout history that have impacted the food industry and the consumers. Here are some notable examples of food fraud incidents from the past, which we are discussing here in 1820s. So it is an example from 1820s. English tea merchant would mix tea leaves with other substances like horsehair, sawdust, and leaves to increase the profit. So it was the one of the very starting example which came into the mind of the people who were concerned about the food safety. So see, from 1820s it started. That means before it, of course it was in the market, but it was in the point, it was in the center uh, in 1820s, mixing of tea leaves with other substances. Then after 20s, then after 20s, 1850s, a very common example, coffee was adulterated with chicory, caramel, and roasted barley to bulk up the product and lower the cost. It was again did by the industry, by the company. In 1906, because of these type of incidents, in 1906, the US government passed the Pure Food and Drug Act after the discovery of formaldehyde in milk, which was added to prevent the spoilage. So basically from 1820s, it was about started in 1906. First time it was in government, it was in the picture of the government that the government has passed the Pure Food and Drug Act. After seeing the mixing of formaldehyde in the milk, which was added to prevent the spoilage. So this is a small history about it. Then in 2018, actually, in 2018, this is a very, very common and it is a very important example because, you know, in 2018, when this example, when this incident happened, after that, GFSI has also started taking action against him. And I think after that, the food fraud and all these things came into that GFSI standards like BRCGS and all. Previously it was, but it was more focused after these type of incidents. It is a very, 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 very popular and at that time very much known incident related to the food fraud. So rotten meat was discovered being sold in Brazil, leading to the suspension of exports to the European Union. So at that time, what happened? European Union has raised this issue, and they have just highlighted it. Whole the complete and whole stock was disposed of, and then immediately for GFSI forum started discussion on that, and then finally the food fraud came into limelight initially with BRCGS and then after for FSSC 2000. So, what are the, okay, so now food fraud, I think you all are pretty much aware about the food fraud. So now here we can discuss about what are the common types of the food fraud. So this is very important thing because see what happened when we started discussing in the standards about this like vulnerability assessment and all these type of things, or you will just go to the trainings for BRCGS or for FSSC in 22000. So these are the common terminologies which you will be go through again and again. But here we can discuss it. So once you will go to the final trainings, so you will be get a clear idea that what are the exactly terminologies using here and what is their role and what are exactly they are playing a role in as a food fraud. So now we can discuss here types of food fraud. First one is mislabeling, very important, and even this mislabeling is a legal requirement. So mislabeling is a type of food fraud that involves the intentional misrepresentation of the contents or origin of a food product through labeling. And this is a legal requirement also. It can involve falsely stating the ingredients, nutritional content, or country of origin of a food product on its packaging or labeling. So if you will get any concern or query related to this, you please ask. Any one of you can ask the questions. You can just write down or raise your hands if you get any doubt or query, because these are the very important topics: types of food fraud, mislabeling, legal requirement also. Again, I am repeating, mislabeling is a type of food fraud that involves the intentional misrepresentation of the content or origin of a food product through the labeling, and it can involve falsely stating the ingredients, nutritional content, or country of origin of a food product on its packaging or labeling. Mislabeling can be done for various reasons, such as to increase the perceived value or quality of product, or to bypass regulations or import the restrictions. So now I can explain here the definition of mislabeling. So now any one of you can give a example for the mislabeling. Just raise your hand. See, here, if you can give any answer, so please don't think like that. Maybe it will be right or wrong. Only thing is that we can discuss the things here. We are here. It is an open forum. We can discuss the things. So I am asking, any one of you have any idea about, or do you have any one of you have any example in your mind related to mislabeling? It's an open question. Anyone can reply. So many senior food technologists, trainers, and undeclared allergen ingredients, label with less ingredients than displaying. Okay. Very nice. Good examples. Anyone else? Anyone or want to just give their thoughts? Okay, fine. Okay. One more answer I have received. The protein content is 23%, but it is mentioned 26%. Yes. Kailash is saying mislabeling, just like we have listed ingredients and not give the defined ingredients in the product. Absolutely right. Perfect. So these are the common examples for the mislabeling. Perfect. So now I can show you few more examples. Again, calories are mentioned less. Of course, this is also. So now few of the examples I am giving. So uh, in 2014, Subway faced criticism after it was discovered that their foot-long sandwiches were actually only 11 inches long. So in 2014, so a Subway faced criticism after it was discovered that their foot-long sandwiches were actually only 11 inches long. It was a very, very means you can say common incident. It was a very, very highlighted incident of that time. So basically, anyone can reply that what is the meaning of foot long sandwiches here? Anyone? What is the meaning of foot long? Uh, any of you? Just I want to know. If there's an in your mind that what is the meaning of foot long sandwiches, that so that what was the actual size, what was the declared actual size, and what they have given. 12 inches of sandwiches. The bread they use is shorter in length. Anyone else? What is the meaning of foot long sandwiches? What is in your mind? What is the meaning? Hot dog sandwich, one fits the 12 inch. Yes, perfect. Vinasar, yes. And one more, yes, of course. So this was the actual size, and what they have given, it was only actually 11 inches long. And in 2015, Chipotle agreed to pay 6.5 USD million for allegedly mislabeling their food as GMO free when some of their ingredients actually contain genetically modified organisms. Yes, it was also a very highlighted incident. It was discovered that some of the ingredients, such as the cooking oil and the dairy products used in their food, did contain genetically modified organisms, even though they had been labeled GMO free. And even after this incident, GFSI started more focused on that non-GMO and GMO type, non-GMO standards and all. And even you want to know one thing, even if buyers, the global buyers, even they are started more focusing on these type of things. So these are the basic incidents. Actually, these are the basic tools. These are the basically drivers who can enhance, who can just support GFSI to just add new versions, new requirements in the standard. So basically, labeling a product as organic when it is not. This is a small example. Stating that a product is gluten free when it contains gluten. Yes. Falsely claiming that a product is made with a certain type of meat, such as labeling a product as beef where it actually contains horse meat. It was an incident which happened during the export in European countries. After that, this food fraud came in the picture in BRCGS, labeling a product as being made in a certain country when it was actually produced elsewhere. So these are the few examples of mislabeling. Now, second type of food fraud. So first type of fraud is mislabeling. Second type of food fraud is substitution. So food substitution can also refer to a fraudulent practice in which one ingredient is replaced with another of lesser quality or cheaper cost in order to deceive consumers and increase the profits. Uh, this can occur in the food industry when companies intentionally substitute a cheaper ingredient for a more expensive one without informing the consumers. Food substitution for the purpose of fraud can be harmful to consumers as they may unknowingly consume an inferior product or even a potential harmful substance. This type of food fraud can also have negative impact on the food industry as it can erode consumer trust and damage the reputation of businesses that engage in these practices. So now I'm just requesting all of you, if you have any of the example or some incident in your mind related to that substitution as a food fraud. Anyone? It is an open question. Any one of you can reply. That any small example of substitution in the food industry as a food fraud. We are waiting here. Any one of you can reply, please. So now what answers I am getting? Yes, I can show. Even I want all of you to get the answer. Sivashish is saying adding cheap oil with expensive olive oil. Yes, very important food fraud and very good example here. Sure. Constant, concentrating, Peter is saying concentrating sugar to act as honey. Yep. Jagdishwara, calcium with lime. Mr. Zabiullah, adding the sugar in honey. And now, any other examples? Anyone want to just give? Mustard with ragi, Jagdishwara. Then water in milk is common. Actually, name is not there. Some food industry knowledge someone has joined with this name. Vinay sir, adding veg fat to pure ghee. Yes, perfect. Zabiullah, adding water in the milk. So basically, yes. Papaya seed in black pepper. These are, yes, of course. Turmeric powder with rice powder. Yes, this is also one of the example. So now, yes, these are the examples Brick powder in red chilies. Yes, Chetna, absolutely right. So these are the few examples. So now we can discuss here few of the examples of substitution here, which are the very common examples here. Olive oil fraud, very common here. Olive oil is often adulterated with lower quality oils such as sunflower or yes, Mr. Munir, yes. So olive oil is often adulterated with lower quality oils such as sunflower or soybean oil and sold as pure olive oil. This is a common form of food fraud in the olive oil industry and can be difficult for consumers to detect. Fish substitution, one also very common example. Anyone want to say? Uh, Fish substitution. This is also a very common example. Some species of fishes are more expensive than others, and it's not uncommon for suppliers to substitute a cheaper fish for a more expensive one. For example, a supplier may substitute tilapia for red snapper or catfish for grouper. This is a very common example here for in the case of fish. Honey fraud. Some suppliers will add sugar. I think someone and also explained olive oil, honey fraud. Some suppliers will add sugar or corn syrup to honey in order to increase the volume and reduce the cost. This type of adulteration can be difficult for consumers to detect, but it can have negative health impacts. So olive oil fraud, fish substitution, honey fraud, rest few examples you have given. Now I can show you one very common example, an incident. So in 2008, manufacturers in China added melamine, a synthetic chemical often used in plastics that has a high nitrogen content. So in 2008, these manufacturers have added melamine to infect formula to make it seems like their products had enough protein. This led to kidney failure in babies, and news reports indicated the fraud caused over uh, 3 lakhs illness, 50,000 hospitalizations, and at least 6 deaths. So this is a very common and very well-known example of substitution of food fraud in the food industry. It happened in 2008. Third type of food fraud is adulteration. So when you started when you started your standards training, then these are the very common words which you will get: adulteration and substitution and all these. So food adulteration is a form of food fraud in which an inferior or cheaper substance is added to a food product to deceive consumers, increase profits, or both. This can include the intentional addition of substances such as water, starch, or other cheaper ingredients to food products in order to increase the volume and decrease the cost. And food adulteration can have serious health consequences, particularly if the added substances are harmful or allergenic. It can also erode consumer trust in the food industry and damage the reputation of businesses that engage in these practices. So now, and a few examples of adulteration. Can you please explain, or any one of you can give few examples of adulteration? Any open example, can you give adulteration? Peter is saying water in milk, yes. Starch powder in curd. Mr. Saeem, Asghar. Any other examples? Okay, so we can discuss few of the Sebashish. Sorry, who is saying refined oil adulterate the milk? Yes. So now we can discuss few examples here. Refined oil adulterate the milk. Yes. So food adulteration include adding food coloring to spices or condiments to make them appear fresher or more vibrant, adding sugar or corn syrup to honey to increase the volume, adding water to meat products to increase their weight. So these are the basic olive oil diluted with tea tree oil. So these are the basic adulteration examples. One of the very well known adulteration example is during 2008 to 2012. Some people reported a bitter metallic taste that sometimes lasted for weeks after they ate pine nuts. After an international investigation, it appeared that some manufacturers substituted a non-food bitter metallic taste that sometimes lasted for weeks after they ate pine nuts. After an international investigation, it appeared that some manufacturers substituted a non-food species of pine nuts in place of more expensive uh, edible pine nut species. Uh, so now fourth type is counterfeiting. Counterfeiting is a form of food fraud in which food products are intentionally mislabeled or misrepresentative to deceive consumers, often for financial gain. Again, I am repeating counterfeiting. Counterfeiting is a form of food fraud in which food products are intentionally mislabeled or misrepresented to deceive the consumers, often for financial gain. In this context, counterfeiting may involve the production and sale of counterfeit products that are deliberately labeled as genuine or branded products but which contain different, inferior, or even potentially dangerous ingredients. Counterfeiting in food fraud can be harmful to both consumers and the food industry as it can erode trust and damage the reputation of legitimate business. It can also be difficult for consumers to detect counterfeit products as they may look very similar to the genuine products, and it may take a closer inspection or laboratory testing to reveal the differences. So few of the examples of counterfeiting are fake alcohol ongoing. The production and sale of fake alcohol is a significant problem in many countries, particularly in the developing nations. Counterfeit alcohol can contain dangerous chemicals and substances such as methanol, which can cause blindness or even death. So, this is a very common example of counterfeiting. The packaging and labeling of a popular brand and filling it with a cheaper, inferior product. This is basically counterfeiting. For example, counterfeit bottles of wines or spirits or counterfeit packets of tea. These are the common examples. So now we are coming to gray market. Ibrahim ji, your question, I have seen your questions. But let me finish this, then one by one we can discuss, or I will write down in the chat box, we can reply there. Okay? Is this fine? So now gray market production. Gray market production in fruit fraud. This is an important terminology. Gray market production in food fraud refers to the unauthorized production and distribution of genuine food products in a market where they are not intended to be sold or distributed. Gray market production can pose significant risk to consumers as the quality and safety of the product may not be guaranteed. In addition, it can harm legitimate manufacturers and suppliers who may lose revenue and brand reputation due to the unauthorized distribution of their products. For example, a company may produce a certain food product for a specific region A company may produce a certain food product for a specific reason, but someone in another region may purchase the product in bulk and then resell it at a higher price without the manufacturer permission. This is also known as parallel trading or parallel importing. So again, I can repeat the example so you get the idea that what is the meaning of gray market production. A company may produce a certain food product for a specific region, but someone in another region may purchase the product in bulk and then resell it at a higher price without the manufacturer permission. This is known as a parallel trading or parallel importing, and this is also a type of a food fraud. So now few of the examples of food gray market production are: in 2015, a batch of chocolate bars that had been intended for sale in Eastern Europe was illegally diverted to the UK, where they were repacked and sold at a higher price. The bars were found to contain high level of undeclared hazelnuts, which posed a risk to consumers with nut allergies. So now I think this is a best example who can explain you better that what is the meaning of gray market production. Diverting product to unauthorized markets. A food manufacturer may produce a certain product for a specific market, but someone may purchase the product in bulk and then sell it to another market where the manufacturer does not intend for it to be sold. This can happen with high-end or specialty food products such as gourmet cheeses or imported foods. So, selling expired or damaged product. Gray market distributors may purchase. This is also a type of a food fraud. Gray market distributor may purchase expired or damaged food product at a discount and then sell them in unauthorized markets, often without disclosing their true condition. This is also a type of a food fraud. So basically, types of food fraud: substitution, adulteration, counterfeiting, and then gray market production. And one more is there, which was that substitution, adulteration, counterfeiting, and anyone else? Just write down gray market production. So basically, you can
Mislabeling.
we have discussed here four type of frauds, food frauds, mislabeling, of course. So now, four types of food frauds we discussed: mislabeling, substitution, adulteration, and last one, counterfeiting. These are the main food frauds. Gray market, this is also a type of a food fraud. It is also there, who can just also be a part of a food fraud and give a major impact to the consumer safety. So now, very important slide we are discussing here. Top 10 most at risk from food fraud. So these are the top 10 list of the food products who can basically face the food fraud issues and concern. First one is olive oil, very, very common food fraud victim. Fish, organic products, milk, grains, honey and maple syrup, coffee and tea, spices like saffron and chili, wine, and the fruit juices. So these are the top 10 listed. I cannot say this is the only list. What I am saying, this is the top 10 most risky food fraud victims who can mostly face these food fraud issues. So now, most of the we have seen in the examples. So now let's identify the potential food frauds in the mentioned items. So now this is a very small healthy exercise which we discussed here. Here we can discuss that in this top 10 list of food fraud victims, food product victims, what are the basic type of frauds we can see here. So now, olive oil. So now Now, in case of olive oil, now my question is, this is the open question, and please in the chat box you can write down your views or just raise your hand if you want to explain here. What are the basic type of food frauds in olive oil? Uh, we have already discussed, but we can. I am asking here again to just refresh your mind. So, what are the basic type of food frauds there? Someone is saying coloring. Anyone else? Please, this is a very common thing. Sunflower oil, yes, Faiz is saying. Anyone else? Addition of vegetable oil, Suman, Saurabh. Any other? Flavor, Bindu is saying. Okay, so I can show you. Uh, Dilution with lower quality oils. Someone is saying tree oil. Yes. So dilution with lower quality oil, adulteration of olive oil is often done by mixing it with cheaper oils like sunflower or soybean oil. This is done to increase the volume of the product while reducing the cost of the production. Substitution with other oils. Another common form of olive oil fraud is the substitution of olive oil with other cheaper oils like canola or hazelnut oil. These oils can be colored and flavored to resemble olive oil, making it difficult to detect the fraud. Mislabeling of origin. Olive oil is often labeled with a specific region or country of origin. Yes, we all are aware in the olive oil bottles, we can completely see the origin, which can impact its perceived quality and the value. Mislabeling of the origin of the oil can lead to consumer deception and competition. Counterfeiting of premium olive oil. Some fraudulent producers may label their oil as premium or extra virgin olive oil to charge. Last one is tampering with olive oil grades. Olive oil is graded based on its acidity and other factors. Some fraudsters may tamper with the acidity levels of the oil to make it appear higher quality than it is. So basically, few of the frauds in olive oil are these are the common basically frauds: dilution with lower quality oil, substitution with other oils, mislabeling of origin, counterfeiting of premium olive oil, tampering with olive oil grades. This is the first victim food product. Second one is grain. Uh, some potential type of food fraud in grains are mentioned here. Adulteration of grain is often done by mixing them with cheaper grains like as corn or rice to increase the volume of the product while reducing the cost of the production. Substitution with lower quality grains. Some producers may substitute higher quality grains with lower quality or cheaper varieties, which can impact the quality and nutritional value of the product. This is very, very common type of food fraud. Very, very common type of food fraud. Third one is mislabeling of origin. Grains are often labeled with a specific region or country of origin, which can impact their perceived quality and value. And the mislabeling of the origin of the grain can lead to consumer deception and the unfair competition. Counterfeiting. Suppose, see, third one is the example mislabeling of origin. Grains are often labeled with a specific region or country of origin. Suppose in one packet, you have seen that this is particularly because, see, uh, wheat is very, very common in MP. Suppose if I am saying MP, the MP wheat is very, very common and a good quality wheat is there. So many brands, what they can do, they can just mislabel it, use some different grain and give it the name of country of origin as it is from MP. And also this is a common example in case of spices, Kerala, they can use it. So these are the common things. This is the common type of fraud which the companies are doing. This is also very commonly doing fraud here in the food industry. Counterfeiting of organic or non-GMO. Fraudulent producers may label their grains as organic or non-GMO, to charge higher prices when in fact they are conventional or genetically modified. This is also a very common example. Uh, Tampering with grain quality. Grain quality is determined by factors like moisture content, protein content, and gluten content. So now few of the examples we have discussed here. How do you think we can detect and prevent these food fraud cases? Testing and analysis. Use laboratory testing to detect any adulterant or contaminant in the food product. This can involve DNA testing, chemical analysis, or other methods to identify any deviations from the expected composition of the food product. Supply chain monitoring. Regularly monitor and audit suppliers. uh, yeah, actually, full form is this genetically modified organisms. But what is exactly GMO? We can discuss. Yes, you are right. GMO is genetically modified organisms. So, regularly monitor and audit suppliers and distributors to ensure that they are adhering to food safety and quality standards. This can involve conducting site visits, reviewing documentation, and conducting interviews with employees. Those in this who are pretty much aware about the GFSI standard requirements like FSSC, BRC, or other standards, they are very much aware about the supplier selection, evaluation, and effectiveness, everything. Lots of things are there for the supply chain monitoring. So use that protocols, GFSI approved protocols to detect the food fraud. Data analysis. Use data analytics to identify any anomalies in sales, purchasing, or inventory that could indicate the presence of food fraud. This can involve using software to monitor transactions and identify any pattern or trend that are not in line with the expected norm. So these are basically the type of detection to detect the food fraud: testing and analysis, supply chain monitoring, and the data analysis. This is not only this is the few one. Prevention. How you can prevent? Once you detect that this is a food fraud, then how you can prevent? Few of the factors, few of the things. Basically, this is the most important thing. You can prevent the food fraud if you get identify or detect. Risk assessment, very important, very common, and very beneficial. Conduct regular risk assessment to identify any of the vulnerabilities in the supply chain that could be exploited for the food fraud. This can involve examining suppliers, ingredients, and other factors that could contribute to the fraud. Supplier verification. Verify the authenticity and quality of suppliers and ingredients before they are accepted into the supply chain. This can involve conducting background checks, reviewing the certifications, and conducting testing and analysis on the products. Employee training. Provide regular training and education to employees on the risk and warning sign of food fraud. This can help to increase awareness and ensure that employees are equipped to identify and report any of the suspicious activity. So basically, these are the most common prevention for food fraud. One more is there, which is technology solutions. Use the technology solutions such as blockchain, tamper-evident packaging, authentication technologies to prevent the food fraud. These technologies can help to ensure the traceability and the authenticity of products throughout the supply chain. So these are the few preventive measures. So now just one more exactly poll question is there, I think. Let me check. I want that all of you please revert on that. So at least I get the idea that you are pretty much aware about it, because this is a small webinar. So here we discuss few things basic about the food fraud. So now please let me know. So now I hope that this webinar would found it will be informative and useful in your efforts to ensure food integrity. You can remember you can remember that preventing and detecting food fraud is a shared responsibility and requires collaboration across the food industry as well as the regulatory agencies. And thank you so much for joining us today, because here I can just give a very small session about the food fraud basic. Because see, why we are conducting this workshop, the reason is that when we started, because as a trainer, when I have given few trainings, I have seen that so many participants are there who are very new for the standard requirements like FSSC or BRCGS. So they are not so much aware that what is the basic difference between frauds and all these things. So on that basis, to just resolve this issue, so at least if as a participant you are here in the workshop, and in future if you will take any of the training for any of the standards, so at least you will be get pretty much aware that what is food fraud, because it is a very common and very important requirement here. So now you can ask your questions. So basically, means basically, Mr. Ibrahim, what was your question was, what is the difference between substitution and adulteration? So adulteration is substitution is basically in from main substance you can replace the actual one, and in the adulteration you can mix or you can add something. This is the so now basically these are the few training courses where we can detailed all these things. These are the trainings which we are planning in next, I think this is the next quarter training, where we can go to in the deep all the things. These all are the BRCGS approved training. All the training materials and all you will get from here only. This is a chart, this is a schedule, this is a table. You get all these details in the groups. If you are in the Facebook, in the LinkedIn, everywhere you get all these details. And also, if you want to become a BRCGS professional, and if you want to be a part of the BRCGS family, if you want to upgrade yourself as a BRCGS, so definitely